Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Mark Welsh, and I am the new and struggling to learn dean of the Bush School. And Dr. Lori Taylor, who's hosting our event tonight, has been trying hard to educate me. It is really a thrill to be here. Thank you for taking your time to be here to do two things. One, to honor a great servant of his fellow citizens, to recognize the supporter and sponsor of a tremendous award, and then third, to have a conversation about success and significance with Mr. David Weekley. And I think that'll be a thrill for all the students who are here in the crowd. There are a couple of people I would like to recognize quickly before we start, and I don't want to forget them, so let me start by introducing you to Representative Bill Flores, our United States Congressman from right here in College Station, Texas. Sir, thanks for joining us tonight. We also have State Representative John Rainey and his wife Elizabeth with us tonight. Thank you both for being here. We also have our sponsor and a huge benefactor for so many, many people in the state of Texas, Mr. Drayton McLane Jr. Sir, thank you for being here tonight and for sponsoring this award. His son, Drayton III, is also here. Drayton, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining us tonight. There are other members here from the McLane Group as well to join us. I won't go through everyone's name, but thank you for taking your time. And then, of course, our award recipient and our speaker this evening, Mr. David Weekley, and his wife, Bonnie. Thank you both for being here. And congratulations, sir. His vice chairman and brother, Dick, is also here. Dick, thank you for taking your time. And their son, Chris, is also joining us tonight. Chris, would you raise your hand so everybody knows where you are? Thank you all for being here. I've got a couple of great visitors as well. I don't know if Mr. Adams made it. Phil Adams, did you sneak in here? Well, I wasn't looking. I didn't see him outside, so he hadn't made it in the door yet. Eli Jones, the dean of the Mays School of Business, is with us tonight. Dean Jones, where'd you head off to? There he is in the back of the room. A great college, a great dean, and a great guy. Thank you for taking your time to join us tonight, Eli. And then we've got Mr. Warren Finch, director of the Bush Library, is right over here along with his wife, Mary. Thank you both for being here tonight, Warren. And our great CEO of the Library Foundation. Where are you, David Jones? Thank you, sir, for all your support and your friendship. In the audience tonight are also members of the advisory board for the Bush School, our developmental council. There's community leaders here, donors here, and every student is at the Bush School. Would you stand up for a second and just let us admire you? Thank you. One of the great things about being the dean here is you get to come to this auditorium and classrooms here in the area, and you get to hear great comments from brilliant people. And one of the people who's been introducing me to all that is Dr. Lori Taylor, who runs the Mosbacher Institute for us. Lori is a great educator, a great economist, and a great, great lady. Lori, let me turn the floor over to you.
Howdy, and thank you all for coming. I'm particularly pleased to discover that the dean is still completely buffaloed, but we'll move forward. And I have the great thrill and honor of presenting this year's recipient of the McLane Leadership in Business Award. The McLane Leadership in Business Award recognizes outstanding contributions in the area of business, public service, or community service at the national level. And through this program, the Mosbacher Institute recognizes and promotes achievements that demonstrate the ability to lead, to inspire, and to succeed in the new world of global markets and decentralized decision-making. We are greatly honored that Mr. David Weekley accepted our invitation to receive this award. He is exemplar of what we are trying to accomplish with this, being both a noted member of the business community and a noted philanthropist. I don't want to steal his time by talking about all his great stuff, but I would like to point out that we have in our presence someone who has been an enormous contribution in his industry, Builder of the Year, a firm that in 2015 closed over $1.3 billion worth of homes throughout the country. His business has grown from the little shop he started back in 1976 into something that is just truly impressive. There are, I know, some folks in the room that live in a David Weekley home, and congratulations. Mr. Weekley is also a noted leader of people. He has staff that have come in from across the state just because he's such a great man that they want to hear from him. And I think that that is the way you judge someone as an employer and as a business leader, is by what the people who work for him and know him best say about him. We that read his bio get part of the picture. Those who see him every day get all of the picture. And they are extremely complimentary, and so we're thankful to them for giving us these insights on this wonderful man. It may not surprise you one bit to hear that he has been 10 times named Fortune magazine's 100 best companies to work for. In addition to that, he is a noted philanthropist, devoting his time and his treasure to making the world a better place. I know that we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more, but I'd like to hear from him on the issue. He's going to talk to us a bit about the compelling issue of success versus significance. And apparently he thinks they're different. So I think we'd like to hear very much about what he has to say. Please help me welcome to the stage Mr. David Weekley.
Well, good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Now, Lori had told me there'd be about 20 people to come hear me, and there were more than that, Lori. You told me a story. I've got to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous tonight because there are a lot of people here that have known me for like many, many years, and so I really do have to tell the truth and the whole truth, and talk about my failings as well as my successes, which are plenty. I'm very honored to accept this award. I got to tell you, for a good portion of my life, in the 20 years plus that I've known Drayton, trying to live up to the role model that he's shown us is something that's in a tall order. And so, Drayton, thank you for all you do, and for who you are, and for what you've done for our state and for Houston and our marketplaces. Can we give Drayton a hand? Because this is awesome. Now, I titled this talk From Success to Significance. And yes, while they might be different things, they can be very well tied together, I think. And I think that's our opportunity to try to figure out for each one of us how to do both. For me, I could have titled the talk From the Secular to the Sacred. Because to me, having a noble cause about what we do and how we're working our life really makes our life worth living in very many ways. For many of us as we start our careers, it's really about climbing the ladder of success, right? How society defines what success is, which is usually financial, oftentimes about what our title is and how we feel, et cetera. And then sometimes we find out that once we reach some certain levels of success, that there has to be more there. And a number of you, here I got to talk to some of the kids / young adults in the nonprofit classes here, and seeing these people that are dedicating, their lives and their energy and their careers to going out and doing things for others is very inspirational. And that's a lot of what this school is about and what I appreciate it. And Mark, welcome. Dean, it's good to have you here. Everybody's excited to have you. And as you bring fresh blood and new excitement to what's already been a proven long-term incredible school. And then to have Dean Eli Jones be here, who's bought 3 of our homes. That really gets to my heart, Eli. I mean, everything else is nice, but a 3-time homeowner is serious business. So I'll have to really be good. I'll have to really be good. I have to tell you that the title of this talk, Success to Significance, came from, there was a book written by a fellow named Bob Buford, who wrote a book called Halftime. And his concept was you work the first half of your life trying to be successful, and then if you're lucky enough to earn a certain degree of success, you spend the second half of your life trying to be significant and giving back. So it's kind of, we acquire in the first half of our life and we give back in the second half of our life. Bob's a friend, and I've talked to him. I said, Bob, I think there's another way we could do that as well. I think that while we're earning and learning, and we can give back at the same time. So my thought was he ought to name the book Part-Time. So I'll be part-time business and part-time nonprofit work or giving back in a way that we can really tie our lives together in a way that it's not two halves, but really a holistic way for us to live and move forward. But to really paint any kind of story, I've got to give you a little background, a little context about kind of where I came from and what I'm doing. It's fascinating to me. It might not be to you, but really, born and raised in Houston, Texas, a family of 3 boys and 2 older brothers that were very successful in life, and I just spent all my life trying to live up to their standards. Now, this might surprise you, this next comment, but I was never really the best looking guy in class. I was never the best athlete, and I didn't make that good a grade. I wasn't that bright either. But what I did find out early in my life was that if you worked hard, you could be successful. And this started out for me in something as simple as Boy Scouts. Because what I found that if I worked really hard, I could get a merit badge, and I could move up the ladder, and I could earn something. I could kind of be somebody in the eyes. And so that concept of hard work was kind of centered in my life, and really taught me that I could do well in spite of the faculties that I didn't have. That sometimes, I think all of us, and one of the great things about getting older is that you recognize that there are some things you do really well, and there are some things you don't do really well, and that's okay. Because everybody in this room is different, and we all have different skills and abilities and opportunities in front of us, and we can get much more peace and joy out of our life the sooner we can recognize what we're strong in and spend our time in that rather than worry about what we're not doing well. So we went through, normal childhood. I was fortunate enough to marry my childhood sweetheart from Memorial High School, 40 years this year, and went to school at Trinity University, got a degree in economics, and finally a degree in geology, and I got accepted to a fancy business school up east. But they wanted me to go work for a couple of years to gain some real work knowledge. So I just happened to go to work for a home builder. I mean, they were paying pretty well at the time. It was a management training course. And what could be wrong with that? I'll just, I don't know anything about homes, don't really care anything about homes, but it was a management training course, and it's just 2 years. Then I was going to go get some real work done. So I went to work for this company. Sure enough, started out as warranty service and then builder. And then by the time I was, 22, I was project manager. I was managing 6 or 8 people. This was back in the go-go days, the late 70s, and you really didn't have to be that talented to be a project manager. Today, you have to be very, very talented to be a project manager. But the fact is, I was there, and I thought I was doing well, and I was just waiting for my next opportunity to go off to graduate school. But something odd happened along the way, that they kind of changed the compensation structure. Instead of getting, a situation where I was going to get a percentage of the profits, they said, we're going to give you an Olds 98. Now, if any of y'all ever had an Oldsmobile 98, this car stretched from here to there, and at 22 years old, it really wasn't my idea of a cool car. And so I remember I talked to my boss and my boss's bosses, and I finally wrote a letter to the president and said, this isn't our deal. This isn't the way things should go. We have a deal. I really don't want the car. I want the profit percentage. And he called me in, and I knew that he was going to take my advice and listen to me as a young whippersnapper I was. But sure enough, I got fired. It really wasn't funny at the time. And that was really my first failure. I mean, here I was trying to live up to my parents' high standards and my brother's high standards. I'd been out of school a year and a half, and I got fired. Now, the worst part of this was I'd gotten married on July 17th, 1776, and I got fired on August 1976. I told you I was feeling a little old. Not quite that old. 1976, and I got fired August 15th of 1976. And she walked into the home, and there I was watching As the World Turns about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and said, David, what's going on? I said, well, honey, I got fired. And she kind of goes, oh. I said better or worse, but not so soon. It was very, it was very kind of, it was a life-changing moment because I hadn't planned on failing quite so quickly. But then sure enough, my older brother Dick, who I'm proud and appreciative you're here, he said, let's start a home building company. I was 22, about to be 23, and there wasn't much I didn't know, and I said, sure, brother, your money, my brains, we'll take care of it. And so he started the company. It was the late 70s, and you could fall off a truck and sell a home. And then I was able to grow through the market. And we got up to, in the mid 80s, most of y'all are too young to know what happened in the mid 80s in Houston, Texas. But I was at that time, I had just built a 10,000 square foot house in Memorial. I was 31 years old. I was a multi-millionaire at 31 years old building this huge house. I was a president of the Builders Association. I got to speak to all these people every month, 350 people. I thought I was God's gift to the home building business. There's no question. And then sure enough, 1985 came, slapped me down. We went from 30,000 housing starts in the city to 6,000. There was no way you could be successful. Had to sell the house, had to move, had to cut my salary out. All these different situations was kind of the second time God slapped me upside the head and said, you're not really in control here. Let's be real clear. Things happen in life and you're not in control. And so, fortunately, we were able to come back from that. And I do remember, a couple years into this, and we're laying people off, and it's really, really tough. I mean, we come very close to going broke. And I kind of made one of those deals, I know you're not supposed to make deals with God, but I thought he'd make a different thing for me or something. So I said, okay, God, give me one more boom and I won't screw the next one up, right? I said, I'll be different, it'll be good. Let me come back once more and I'll be better at this. And so sure enough, through the late 80s and early 90s, we were able to come back to agree, and things got going pretty well there in the early 90s. And I kind of remember that I'd kind of made a deal, and I'd kind of gone through some different parts of my life, and I had some open heart surgery to fix something from my youth, and so there are a number of kind of different things happen in your early 40s. Okay, kind of middle-aged crazy deal. But I remembered that there was something I had to do. And I figured out how much I needed to have, how much was enough, which most people don't do. If they're on the success track, you just want more. I went ahead and figured out how much was enough, which was kind of unusual. And I realized that I kind of had enough. And so I said, okay, from this point forward, I'm going to give half my income and half my time to charity. Now, the good news about that is that it meant that I had to go hire somebody much better than me to run the company. And as a founder, I'd grown the company up to, I guess, $250 million in sales, but I found a great guy who's taken it up to $1.8 billion this year. And so the reality is I was an entrepreneur, and I did a good job to a certain level, but as most entrepreneurs and founders, you reach a certain level of your competency, and you need to go get others to help you. And so this helped me do that. It was a blessing in disguise. And then, so we took off from there. Things went very well, and they've continued to. We've had some other, very tough times as well. This last turn down in 2008, we ended up having to lay off 1,000 people. We went from 1,600 team members down to 600, so very, very tough all across the country. But the reality is that because we kind of changed how the company operated, it was almost accepted by the team members that we were doing it for the right reasons because the company had to survive. Because see, back from 1992 on, we really turned our thinking around and realized that the company really wasn't about us. It was about the other. It was about them. It was about the team. Now, you might think that because the company's called David Weekley Homes that I had an ego. You might think that. But let me kind of tell you how this came about, okay? It started out, and Dick and I started the company, and in the late 70s, and we did all kinds of thinking and market studies and this and that, and we said, it's been about 30 seconds, what should we name the homes? How about Weekley Homes? Okay, great. Didn't take a lot of work on that. So we named it Weekley Homes, and our first homes, I'll never forget, up off Jones Road off 290, heading out of Houston, it said Weekley Homes from the 30s. Not the 130s, not the 230s, from the 30s. It was a while ago, from the 30s. And we had this truck pull up from another southern state that I won't mention. It was full of furniture, and they kind of pulled up in front of the model and said, where are those homes to rent for $30 a week? Makes total sense, right? Weekley Homes from the 30s. Why not? So I went to my older and wiser brother Dick and said, I think we need to rename the company, and surely it needs to be my name, not yours. And he agreed. But the reality is, I spent this first part of my career, and it really was all about me. How much money could we make? What could we do? It was all about me, like a lot of folks, really. It's very self-focused. So when I made this transition and started focusing on the other, all kinds of great things happened. And we were able to kind of turn the company into one that was team member focused. And we did things, we've got profit sharing for all the employees. So when we're successful, everybody wins, not just, a stockholder. We put in, 8% matching on 401k match. We've got chaplains in all of our cities to help people, because life goes on when you're in business, and you got to bring your life to work if you got a sick relative or sick kid or this, life goes on and chaplains can help. We've done a lot of different things, and the way we manage the company, instead of top down and pounding on people, we try to lift them up. And when we do talk about people being our team, now we're not perfect, we still screw up a lot, but the facts are we change the culture around in very serious ways. And one of the ways that I think that is shown is to get this, Fortune magazine 100 Best Place to Work, because that's decided by votes of the team. And home builders are not necessarily the easiest place to work, right? It's kind of hot and dirty out there and tough and, all these things. But our team says, in spite of all that, we're a great place to work. So so a lot of good things have happened. And when I think about moving from the company and what we're doing as a company, I also had to make some decisions about, what do I do? Do I try to sell the company after it gets to be so big? Or do I try to go public? What's the end game? We're a private company. What's the end game? I start getting older, and what do I do? Do I want to do something to maximize my own, financial gain, or do I want to do something that continues this organization into the future? And we decided to stay a private company and go well into the future. So I've got now 30 senior managers that are all stockholders. We're set up in such a way to where a majority of the profits will continue to go to charity well into the future. So if I stepped off the curb today, the company would continue on as a private company. You see, our purpose as a company is building dreams, enhancing lives. That's what we do. Do we try to make money? You bet. We like money. We think it's the way that people tell us if we're doing a good job for them. But building dreams, enhancing lives, and we start with our team, and then focus on our customers, and then focus on our community. We talk about our team. I told you some of the things we do and the results and the measurements we have showing that we're a great place to work. When I come down to our customers, we're intent on doing the right things for our customers. When you have somebody who buys 3 separate homes from you, you're doing okay. We still screw up from time to time. We really do. But the facts are, trying to get it all right is kind of part of our core. And in fact, when our superintendents, our builders sign on in the morning, their customer satisfaction scores are the first thing they see. Same thing with the salespeople, same thing with the warranty people. We live and die by these scores. In fact, we're the first builder. How everybody does things with ratings now? If anybody here shopped on Amazon ever, anybody read any of the ratings? We always, and read any of the references, we all do. There's not a home builder in the market that puts ratings and reviews on their website, and we're doing that starting like next week. And we went back to all of our homeowners over the last 2 years because we want to make sure they'd be okay. And we saw how we were doing, and we averaged like 4.7, which was great. And we've got all these comments back about how our team has impacted their lives in great ways. So when I talk about results, we talked about building dreams, enhancing lives. We talked about our team, talked about our customers, and the fact that we really focus on doing a great job with our customers. And then also let me talk about the community. Since I've been doing this 50% deal, and I'm a significant shareholder in the company, it meant that the company has given away over 20% of their profits over the last 25 years. Huge amount of money. And we've been able to do great things. And the reason is because I've also been able to put half my time into it. Because writing checks without investing your time oftentimes doesn't result in things that are necessarily good. So I've been able to put a lot of my time into it as well, and it's been a great joy and a great honor to be able to do that. Because a lot of us in the room have to feel a sense of gratitude that we live in this country and that we're blessed in the way that we are and that we've been given so much. And when we come from a place of gratitude, I naturally feel a sense of responsibility to do something with that. And then when I act on that responsibility, and I actually do something and move into action rather than just thought, then I experience a great joy, a reality and a joy that's much deeper than just happiness or good feelings or whatever, but a true joy that I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in the zone. You know, I'm doing what I was made to do, which is to focus on other people and help lift up their lives. So this is not kind of a selfless deal. It's very much, you know, a situation where I feel very affirmed. I feel very good. I'm excited every day about getting to work in these areas and be able to contribute. The other thing that's interesting about, you know, I talked about getting older and the fact that we get to know ourselves well or better. I found that with these nonprofits, I can have a great impact because what happens is, you know, the nonprofits are usually founded by people with great passion towards a particular mission. You know, is it teaching or is it healthcare, whatever. These people have huge passions, but they're normally not great business people necessarily, right? And so I can help them because I know something about business, and I can help them grow and scale and become something more than they are today. And so building competency in these nonprofits and helping them get better is really rewarding for me. So to me, success to significance is really all about us having a purpose in our life, us having a real reason to exist, and a real reason that for us to get up every day and keep getting after it. And when I think about our purpose in life, it kind of brings to mind does anybody here know what the second best-selling book in the world is after the Bible? It was a book called Purpose-Driven Life, written by Rick Warren. Okay, 27 million copies. Okay, does anybody here know what the first 4 words in that book is? I know somebody does. It's not about you. Exactly, it's not about you. So here it is in our crazy society, very materialistic. People are saying the world's going away, et cetera. But the reality is 27 million people in America bought a book where the first 4 words are, it's not about you. I think each one of us is curious and interested in how we can operate for the other, and how we can have a purpose that's bigger than ourselves. We know ourselves. We know we can do more for others than we can ourselves. So at the end of the day, I think each of us has this opportunity, and it's a real tremendous blessing to be where we are in this state, at this college, and be given the blessings that we've been given. But what a unique opportunity we have to develop our purpose, develop our ability, develop our passion to really do something much more than any of us could do otherwise, and realize that it's really not about us. So my thoughts and prayers are that we can each live lives of significance. Thank you very much.
Well, that was just absolutely amazing and incredibly insightful. And you hit my first 5 questions, which is kind of leaving me needing to go to a question that we got from the audience. One of the folks that are here today.
That's scary.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
So your website shares how you've sought to build a strong and healthy culture. What specific steps have you taken to see that come about? What did you do to make sure that the culture developed the way you wanted it to?
Cultures are usually developed from the top. The top determines how people think about their jobs, their lives, what they're doing, et cetera. And so it was really about me changing my thought about it being about me to the other, as I kind of stated. And when you do think about the other, and you drive that into everything you do, you just operate differently. I mean, I remember a few years ago, you know, we were doing at the top of the market, matching our 401k dollar for dollar up to 6%. But you know, we had the guys in doing the retirement analysis and all those things, and we looked at a line of where our people would retire, and 75% of them were below the necessary line to hit the retirement success. And I'm going, wait a minute, these people are giving their lives to the company, they're passionate, they're committed, et cetera. What could we do to help them? And I don't want to give them gifts, I want to share with them, I want to be their partner in them taking care of their retirement. So we ran some more numbers and did some work, and sure enough, if we moved to a match of 8%, and they put 4% more total, two of theirs and two of ours, into a 401k plan, we moved to where like 75% were above the line. So it's thinking and realizing in everything we do that it's worthwhile to look at the people who create our business, that they share in the profits. And so it's just really about the other. I mean, it's about getting out of your way.
Okay. So you spoke a little earlier about how you made a conscious decision to divide your time and your attention, to the 50% to your philanthropic efforts, 50% to your business efforts. Did you get any pushback on that balance of your time and effort?
No, the people in the company loved it because the less time I spend, the less time I'm bugging them, and they're, I mean, they thought it was a great idea, and I was fortunate to hire in somebody much better than me, and my brother Dick, who's been, you know, my long-term partner, said if that's what you want to do, then go for it. You know, always been supportive, and so it just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. It was just kind of, you know, I'd made that deal with God, I'd had this health issue, et cetera. I said, if I'm going to do this, let's get with the program, and let's do it.
Okay. So there are a lot of people out there that could envision themselves making the financial commitment, but not so many that would made the time commitment. Why do you think it was so important to be a venture philanthropist, to really get out there and put your time and effort into what you were doing?
As you get certain levels of success, the money is not as valuable as your time.
Exactly.
And so if I really meant what I was going to do, if I was really going to go give half of my worth, wealth, creation, et cetera, to the nonprofit sector, then it had to include my time, because that's the most valuable thing we have. I also realized that as compared with just writing a check, if I go get engaged with these organizations, I can make that check worth $5 instead of $1, because I can help them build capacity, build scale, and help them from a business standpoint. Just like, you know, I've grown a company, I can help them grow their organization and help them build their competency to go from one level to the next level.
So yeah, you talked about building capacity in the nonprofit sector. What do you see as the skill set that seems to, where they most value or benefit from your time? What is it that you can particularly bring to the table?
Each group is different, right? Each group has different strengths and weaknesses, just like we all do. And so what happens is they, you know, come to my table and ask for funding, as they should be doing for their particular organization. And I've usually, before they come, I've looked over all their board of directors, their budgets, their 3-year plan if they have one, and kind of get an understanding of who they are and what their needs might be. And as they're asking for their operating funding, I'm kind of delving into other questions. And for some organizations, it might be a board issue. For other organizations, it might be they don't have a good case statement or ways to talk to funders about getting the funds they need. So I've got a group in Houston I have under contract that helps me with board development, does strategic planning, does all these things, and gets into the detail that I am not good at, nor do I want to spend the time doing. But they're an extension of me, and we're working with 6 or 8 different organizations at any given time, trying to help them build capacity, because that's something that I can add to them. If I help them and they do that well, then again, that's high leverage on any funds I give.
Great. So we have a nonprofit management program, and with some
I've met some of the students. They're awesome.
They're amazing students, and I think that they would really like to know what skills they should focus on that can help them be the kind of people that you would want to work with.
The first thing I would say, which is probably the hardest to do, is self-knowledge of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and then go to those areas of your strengths. As opposed to fighting those areas where you're weak, just go to your strengths. And if you do that, and you do that continually over and over and over again, those strengths get stronger and stronger, and you will excel in those in ways that other people won't. Maybe it's in finances. Maybe it's in interpersonal relations. You know, maybe you're a passionate carer of children, then you ought to get somewhere where you can really care for children in a wonderful way. To me, the greatest understanding and reality and joy that I've had is recognizing that I've been put in a place where I can use my skills, and I think that we're made to where when we use our skills, we use them well, we get that joy that I've talked about. So to me, a job should never be a job. It should be something that we're excited about getting up every day and going to do. And if we're not in that place, then we ought to get someplace else. Now that's understanding that for the first 3, 5, 8 years, you got to get some basic knowledge.
Right.
So, but after a while, I'd make sure you're somewhere where you can really excel.
Cool. So one of the things that makes you such a perfect fit for the McLane Leadership in Business Award is that you do so carefully balance your business side with your philanthropic side. Which one do you think is going to be more challenged over the next 5 years? The business side of your life or the philanthropy side of your life?
I've been doing the business side 40 years, and so even going through these ups and downs, I kind of know how to calibrate that. I'm doing a lot of work now with international charities, and that's really hard in foreign countries with different laws, different cultures, different lands, et cetera. And so I think that will continue to be one of the most challenging areas that I work in. And that's the reason I'm doing it. I love the action. I mean, I love taking on challenges that are really hard.
Mm-hmm. So what do you see as your current hardest challenge?
It's getting in shape. At the risk of being honest.
We're into honesty.
Okay, at the risk of being honest, I mean, I can do a lot of things, but I seem to be having problems with that, so anyway.
Okay, sounds good. So could you talk a little bit more about your early history in home building? You spoke earlier about how you kind of came to it through family connections, through working with your brother, and being in Houston, and having the wonderful opportunity of having to seek a new line of work very shortly after you got married. When did you know, and how did you know that home building was the right fit for you?
Once I started being very successful at it in 3 or 4 or 5 years in, I said, "This is pretty cool. This is pretty good." And when we got married, and I was set up to kind of go to my fancy business school, I remember the groomsman at the wedding said, the man who told Harvard no, because I was starting my company and I was actually doing something. So the facts are action, doing, rather than simply thinking or learning or building a resume necessarily is always I've always loved the action.
Mm-hmm. Great. So one of the things that is very clear about you is that you've been very resilient over the years, that home builders in Texas have to be resilient because we go up, we go down, we go sideways. And I think you've had some enormous opportunity to observe some real peaks and valleys in your field. What do you see as the prospects for home building over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Is it going to continue to grow? Is it going to be something that is going to plateau?
Yeah, I think it's as positive as I've ever seen it, because, for the 10 years before the downturn in the 2007, 2008, 2009 time period, we were building over 1 million homes a year for that 10-year period. Now we're building 700,000 homes as an industry within the country, and yet we're adding households at like 1.3 million, 1.5 million. So huge difference in the potential demand versus the supply. The home ownership rate's gone from 67% in the country to 62%, the lowest since World War II. And so I think that as a lot of the millennials become marrying age, which is now 30 instead of 22,
Yep.
I think we're going to have a tremendous number of folks coming back into the housing market. Because when you have a kid and a wife, and you want to go to the right schools, et cetera, you'll be buying a house rather than living in an apartment or a townhouse. And so to me, it's better than ever.
Wonderful. So do you see it?
Let me mention something I talked to the kids about earlier today. From a nonprofit sector, I really look for three separate things when I'm looking at an organization. First of all, is it high leverage? You know, if I give $1, does it do $10 worth of work or $20 worth of work? And I'm in the real estate business, so we love leverage, right? Does it have high leverage? Secondly, is it scalable? In other words, can it really expand? Can it grow? Can it do something more than it's doing today? And thirdly, is it sustainable? I mean, if an organization becomes 5 times as large, it'd have to raise 5 times as much money, or can it create some way of generating income or doing something to really bump up its ability to sustain itself over time? So from a nonprofit sector, I look at those three things and really focus on those organizations that have some potential in that. The other thing is I always back the leadership. You know, I've seen lots of great ideas and great models and other things, and if you see the greatest idea and the greatest opportunity in the world, but you don't have a great leader, it doesn't matter. And if you have a great leader, I'll back them all the way, because they will do outstanding things. And so developing your students, developing that leadership capability personally, by being in those job situations where you're relating to people, you're doing things, you're making things happen, to me is really the opportunity for success.
Okay. So does one learn leadership by doing, or does one learn leadership in a classroom, or how did you learn?
I messed up a lot. I mean, I mean, you can learn a lot in a classroom, and we train a lot in a classroom. We do all kinds of things trying to help people accelerate that. But I think a lot of it has to be on the job training. You know, you got to fire your first person and realize that it's your fault, not their fault, because you put them into a position where they could not excel. So it's a whole different mindset about how you think about the people in the team. When we have somebody that leaves us or we leave them, it's our fault. We either recruited them improperly, we didn't put them in the right place. I mean, the fit wasn't there, and that's our fault.
Right. So it's are you maybe taking a little too much responsibility for that? Doesn't they have some responsibility for the fit?
Well, we have, no, they don't have responsibility for the fit because we choose them for the job. They have responsibility for their performance in the job. And so what happens in our company, we have metrics on everything, right? Did we make these phone calls? Do we do this, do that? And they're very visible. When our managers come in, you know, 4 times a year, we put the results up on the board, and it's by name, and you're in the green or you're in the red, and you don't want to be in the red. And it's very visible. You know, the metrics are there, and you can see if you're succeeding or not. And so I think people want to perform and want to do well. I don't think they're lazy. I think it's, again, our fault. We either didn't train them well, put them in the right position, put the right motivations out there. Did we mishandle how we're going to compensate them in some way? Because if we do those things well, I think people want to win. I think they want to do well. And so to me, looking at the company rather than looking at them, it's easy to look at them. If we take the mirror and look at ourselves, I think that's one of the things that helps us as a company grow and become better and be a good place to work.
Are you as data oriented in your philanthropic work as you are in your business world?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Pretty much so?
Yeah, I'm kind of a hard case, yeah.
Well, you and I know how important data can be to effective decision making, but there are a lot of people out there that aren't real keen on being measured. So
yeah, I don't give to them. I just don't.
Great.
I mean, my wife and I have very different abilities and talents. She gives with a heart, and I give based upon my skill sets and with a head. And I just think, and she does it very well in her own way, and I try to do it well in my own way. And I just think we have to be true to who we are and realize our strengths and weaknesses and play to those and do what we feel good about and not try to do something that we're not.
Great. So a lot of your philanthropic work is international.
Right.
But most of your business world is domestic.
Right.
Is that a deliberate choice, or how did that come about?
Well, it's domestic because I only know how to build in America. We're in 22 cities. The complexities of international, whether it be the rule of law, I mean, all those things are just mind-boggling to me. And in philanthropy, I've been studying and working on it for 10 or 12 years, and I still make huge errors in what I'm doing, or there'll be a political coup somewhere, or something will happen, and what I've invested in for the previous 5 years is gone. Okay, it's one thing to do that with kind of after earned money. Do that with earned money, you know, what I'm trying to earn, I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to take those bets. The other thing with the company, we have 1,600 team members. I don't think I should put them at risk for things that we don't feel really good about doing. I mean, that's 1,600 families, it's 6,000 people. I mean, it's a real responsibility. And so, and I take it very seriously, that my job, my job, is to ensure that I create a place, an environment where we could be successful over the long term and do the profit sharing and support the 401k and give the increase and do everything we can to fulfill our purpose of enhancing people's lives, our team, our customers, and our community. I mean, that's why we exist.
Great. So how did you come to a philosophy that starts with team and goes to customers and then goes to community? A lot of businesses stop at customers and don't go any further.
Well, first of all, we start with team because our team are what creates the brand. I mean, the facts are our builders and salespeople and warranty folks, designers, they're the ones out in front meeting the customers. And the customers will either love us or not like us based upon that interaction and that relationship. And so if they don't feel good about their job, if they're not impassioned about what they're doing, we're done. You know, the brand is gone. We get over 30% of our sales from referrals. And so it's really important. Not only is it the right thing to do, try to take care of customers, it's smart to do because we get more business. And so that's the reason we start with the team. Customers are fairly self-apparent because they drive our business. The community goes back to this decision that I made in 1992 to give half my time and money back to the community. And what's a little bit interesting is that I spent the first 20 years and I didn't tell anybody about it. I just kind of did it. I kind of did it secretly. And just a couple years ago, I realized that I was being selfish and that the people who created that wealth would want to share in the joy of giving and contributing and being part of getting involved in the community. So we created our CARE program. And so in all of our cities now, there are groups of people that get together and go engage within the community, not out of the sense of corporate responsibility, where as a good company you're supposed to give 1%, because we didn't even talk about it for the first 20 years. And we got away like $200 million and nobody knew about it, right? And our team member didn't know a word, right? It was very quiet. But the reality is that we want to share that with them now and have them be part of the joy of giving. The other thing is with the whole millennial generation now, I'm so inspired by these folks because they really want to make a difference. Very different than my generation, which I just want to get ahead for me. These folks want to make a big difference, and folks in your school want to make a big difference. So I'm also finding that it's a great way to go hire people into the company because they see a company that's walking the talk, that's doing what we're talking about doing, and they can get involved, and they can learn, they can do. So it's turning out, there's a lot of things, if you do the right thing, good business things happen of it. So we're excited about where it puts us as an employer and as a community builder.
Great. Well, I think it's pretty darn obvious to everybody why you're such a perfect fit for the McLane Leadership and Business Award. And I'd like to invite Drayton McLane to the stage at this time to talk a bit about the award and to make a presentation of our lovely Crystal Doohickey over here.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Laurie, thank you for organizing the program. And this is really, I feel like I'm going back to college. I learned a great deal. I'd like to revert back 50 years and start all over again after hearing what all you talked about. But David is a great example of what makes America great. Entrepreneurs, businessmen that are adding value and give back. And I think it's really exciting at 23 to start your company with Dick. And to have built a company of this magnitude, and he just mentioned they're in 22 communities all over the United States, and last year you did 1.3 billion.
1.6 last year.
Okay, well,
That was a couple years ago. Not that I'm counting.
It shows I'm not current. But what you have developed, and you know, those are measurements, but those are only part of the measurements when you look at David and what he has achieved. I saw where in 1986 you won the National Home Builders Association. I've been to their meetings several times. That's one of the biggest conventions anywhere in the world. And he won the Builder of the Year. That was a great distinction. And then in 1989, he won the Houston Entrepreneur of the Year. So they have rewarded you for what you've accomplished as a business leader. But I think the most exciting part of what we've learned about you today is your philanthropy, how you and your wife and your entire family want to give back. That's astounding. And we're very proud of that. And so I've seen you and I have been friends for almost 25 years. And I had seen his Christian faith just come shining through. Not often you see that in some large businesses like they have. And to see his Christian faith, his values, his integrity, and to give back to your employees, their teammates. And they have certainly helped you. So our family is very, very excited that you have had this award. Last year, the HEB family received this award, and they're a great Texas institution, and you're right up there with them. So we're very, very excited for this, and you're going to have to decide where you're going to put that.
Thank you. Cool. All right.
It takes power. You said that maybe the biggest challenge is staying in shape.
Right.
So you're going to have to carry that around and promise us you won't drop it.
Right.
Well, you set a great example. We're very proud of you.
Thank you all so much for coming this evening, and we appreciate you. Drive carefully and come back soon. Take care.